Welcome back. Episode 104 of the Grouch and the Brainstorm. I'm Mike, and I'm joined here today with Jill.
Hey, guys.
And Matt.
Hey, guys.
And Lacy.
Hello.
And together we are...
Okay.
Cool. We are very cool today.
We're Rod Stewart cool.
Yeah, I'm not even going to edit that out. Together, we are a group, this group right here. The Grouch and the Brainstorm. That's who we are. And if anyone had been in here listening to the conversation prior to starting this podcast, you might understand why we're making a lot of errors today.
Yeah.
So, but we're going to leave it just like it is. And the question of the day, Matt.
Yeah.
Question for all of our listeners.
We need to do a bonus podcast episode right before the regular podcast and just put that out, and people go, "What is wrong with them?" You know.
And before we get really rolling, we might as well just go ahead. They're throwing a party next door and some kind of funeral spring /
Celebration of life.
celebration of life, and it is a madhouse over there. So you're gonna have a lot of noise coming in today.
Yes. Yes.
Anyway, before we do anything else, we're gonna do what we always do. And Matt, what you been up to?
Man, living the dream as always. Just we have a wedding date as of a couple of days ago,
right.
Lacy and I. So May 17th, we just found that out. We hadn't even done invitations. It's been a lot of back and forth timing type thing, and so we're moving forward. We're pretty excited about that. So
That's awesome.
she's lucky to have me, guys. You know, so.
I am.
Well, is that true, Lacy?
Yes, for sure.
Okay. So
Mike went right to it because is that
For
true?
sure.
what have you been up to, Lacy?
Work, and like him just moving forward. I didn't realize I was in the way of me, and in our
Haha.
life.
Yeah.
Big time. I
Yeah,
had
it
to-
tends to happen. Tends to happen to the
Yeah.
best of us.
And just raising kids,
Okay. Okay.
living the dream, as Matt said.
Living a dream. Jill, what have you been up to?
Well, we do this about weekly, and I think this week has not been my week. I mean, we all get those. I am not feeling well physically. My stomach and my back, God bless. I don't know if it's hormones. I've been to the doctor, many tests. I don't know. Yeah, I've been in a funk. I've been kind of emotionally down along with, physically down. So, hey, and guess what? That happens. I'm still sober though.
Yes. Amen. Amen.
Chunking bud, everybody all right?
Yeah, everybody's good. Happy boys and happy girls, and yeah, looking forward to.
I actually saw Chunk. He was over at the neighbors at that party.
I did,
I came
it just
in.
wouldn't surprise
He
me.
made a plate, so I don't know. I don't know what happened.
He
there.
needs to be careful, or they're gonna make a plate out of him.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of a weight problem going on right now, though.
That's why he's called Chunk. And you know what's crazy? I named him that before I got him. It's like I had a premonition that he.
he may have some high cholesterol issues down the road.
Well, he's a pig.
I love my
He
Chunky.
do what pigs do.
I call him Chunky
He's
Butt.
just living up to the stereotype.
He really is. And they're living large, and
Yeah.
life's,
Literally.
hey, I may not be feeling well, but life's good.
Literally
Yeah.
living large. I like it. I like it when pigs live large. It reminds me, when I was a kid, there was this show called Charlotte's Web. Do y'all remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And the pig on there was Wilbur.
Yes.
Wilbur.
Yeah.
You like 10 before you realized the pig's name wasn't Charlotte. And Wilbur would always just like get off on hanging out in the mud and doing all this crazy stuff. And he definitely lived up to that reputation of a pig. So,
Yeah. I mean, what's crazy is that they're actually really clean animals.
Yeah. They convince you of that, or did?
I always liked Templeton, bro.
The rat.
He was the
I
star of
was
the
like,
show.
who?
He had all those hustles
Templeton.
going on.
Templeton.
I don't remember.
He could get all the trash. He was eating all the trash from the fair, and like anything you needed, you go to Templeton. He could get it for you.
I mean, it may have been 1981
Right, I
when I
still
read
remember
this,
that, though.
But
Templeton
yeah, I don't
was-
remember. I mean, all I remember is at the very end, and I may not even remember that. What did the spider?
He was the little rat.
No, the spider drew something in the web, and it said like
Special.
goodbye.
Was trying to keep the
It wasn't
pig from
special.
getting killed.
Yeah, I think the word it drew was the first one was special.
Did you say kilt?
Kilt.
K-I-L-T?
Yeah, like kilt, like bagpipes.
Trying to keep it from wearing a skirt.
I thought it said something like goodbye or it said special.
I think it said special.
Yeah, it was these words for the pig so the farmer wouldn't kill the pig.
Oh.
And he thought,
They thought it was a magical pig.
Seriously?
I guess.
Oh, I'm over here like, I
Lacy,
don't
did
recall.
you see this movie?
Yeah.
You saw it?
I was young though.
Yeah, I was like, I don't
Yeah,
recall that
so
part of the movie. I mean, it's been a while.
What was the last
Evermore. No, that's the
message
Oh my gosh.
Evermore.
from CHAR? Yeah, Charlie. What was the last message from Charlie Sheen?
Winning, I think was actually that dude's sober now.
Oh yeah.
Y'all seen anything lately on him?
No.
Well, no, he's sober.
Well,
you don't,
he-
you don't
no,
see
I
a
mean,
whole lot on sober people.
He
Humble was
Yeah.
the last message.
Wow.
From
Yeah, and they
Charlie,
made
so
up all the pig songs about the pig, man. You know.
Well, and what did I say? Goodbye. It was pretty close.
No,
Sorry.
no, it wasn't.
didn't the rat?
You
right.
wasn't closer than special.
Special might have been the
There
first.
was, yeah.
Humble was the last message, according to Google.
According to Google.
And this means that Wilbur is modest about his popularity and not let it go to his little pig head.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then he dies.
I don't know.
I can't remember the ending of it.
I don't
think-
remember if they hauled that pig off
I
or
think
not.
it was a Jimmy Dean baking commercial.
Back then,
That's wrong.
back then, it was the 80s. They probably did haul that pig off. That's how those movies were. You had to be tough at the
Yeah,
end.
yeah,
you know?
they made you, like Old Yeller. He didn't
Yeah.
stand a chance from
No.
the get go. You know, when you saw him, frolicking through the bushes, and
You knew
stuff,
immediately he's a goner.
Yeah, you knew he was going to get bit by something. And
Most of your movies ended badly like that. They were happy all the way through, and then the dog or whatever animal is no longer with us.
Aren't
you
they
know?
still like that?
I don't know.
I don't. I think legally now they have to end good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You can't.
Seriously?
I don't know.
Oh.
Watch
God,
movies.
I'm awfully gullible today.
Yeah. Have you watched Die Hard? How did it end? There you go.
I don't know, explosions and whatnot.
I think back then everything had to go along with the Bible. It just didn't end well. Well, for a lot of folks, there was a small group that it ended well for. But
Yeah, I think
sure didn't end with the word humble. That's for sure.
That's right. Yeah, I think Wilbur he wound up at Waffle House reincarnated is what I think happened.
yeah.
So.
So, well, Waffle House is better than Denny's.
Could be worse.
So, IHOP, he could have ended up at IHOP where you never know where he ends up. At least Waffle House is kind of contained. But anyway, I've been very sick this week. I don't get sick. I got sick enough to go to the doctor and get a couple of shots.
Mike.
Yeah, yeah. I took myself to the doctor and gave me one on each side.
Rocephin.
No, I don't know what his name was. I just know he gave me. We didn't get that close. I mean, I just
He's
barely pulled my
Italian.
pants down. But I got I think it was an antibiotic and a steroid, and then
Yep.
they gave me a Z-Pack, and I mean, it was pretty rough there for a few days, and everything's still the same. Now, I did last episode I talked about, if you remember, I talked about how my grandkids got to meet for the first time ever, right? And so I brought a picture of that, and that's the picture of my two grandkids,
Oh,
and the guy from the Brawny paper towels stepped in to hold one of them. But those are
Is that you?
That's my son-in-law,
Oh.
Christian.
That's so sweet.
But that is that's my two grandkids when they got to meet for the first time, or that might have been the second time, but it was the same day. But anyway, so we pretty cool deal, So
Absolutely.
he's still over there. He had a little bout with something going on right now. He's got something going on, and they had to put him back in ICU today, and it's one of them up and down things. And his discharge date's actually coming up. So
Good.
my other grandson is his name is Zeke. He turned 7 years old today.
Happy birthday. Oh, sorry, I won't.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna go get him tomorrow and take him somewhere and let him do whatever. And then on another note, we had this. Me and everyone in North Texas had this huge hailstorm come through last night, and I mean it was so loud it sounded like a tree coming through the window, and it looked like it snowed. And in my truck I just got looks like a golf ball. It's just covered in hail damage. So yeah, I'm hoping I can get that in and out by the time I get back from my out of town trip this week. So a lot going on, and then working on this video stuff to get this right on this podcast has been it's also keeps me busy. It keeps me up. I usually between 10 and midnight I have enough time to study, and then I have to drive back over here to apply my knowledge. You know, so yeah.
I mean, you're a busy man.
You the hardest
You don't
working
stop.
man in show business.
Yeah.
It's show, yeah.
James Brown is long gone. It's you now, bro.
Well, you know what I say, life of a rock star, guys.
That's right. That's right.
Life of a rock star. I was reading to y'all earlier though before I changed my page to what I changed Charlotte's Web, the lookup tool for Charlotte's Web. I was reading here about our some of our countries, and it's been a long time since we've been through these countries, but our newest country is Bangladesh.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I don't even know who Ladesh is, but congratulations on your bang.
That's there you go.
We also have Italy, El Salvador, India, Mexico, the Netherlands, Colombia, UAE, Saudi Arabia, the Philippines, Turks and Caicos, Lesotho, and they actually talked about Lesotho the other day. I want to think part of the president's address mentioned Lesotho, and it's talking about some kind of aid going out there. I don't get into all that, and we're not going to do that on the show. But he was talking about some kind of aid, and he's like, "There's a country he had never heard of." Like, well, there's makes two of us because I hadn't either. But we
It's
sure don't
awesome
want
they're listening, though.
for either reason. I don't want to lose any listeners out in Lesotho,
Sure.
the beach town somewhere in Africa.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Okay.
Bulgaria, Denmark, Australia, New Zealand, Russia, Kenya, Belize, St. Lucia, Taiwan, Switzerland, Germany, South Africa, Canada, Ireland, Ukraine, Singapore, Brazil, United Kingdom, and of course the good old U.S. of A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hola.
Yeah,
That's
we got
awesome.
mass everywhere. We have 'em everywhere.
Bonjour.
So, any announcements there, man?
G'day, mate. Huh?
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, I
What
just
kind
had
of accent was that right there, bro?
this. I don't know really. I just made that up. A guy's been on this show before, Steven, been in and out, and I just sat down and my phone went off. And he got 90 days today.
Oh, that's
So
great.
he's,
Congratulations, man.
He's had to reboot, man, like we all do, and just keep working at this thing. And he's doing really good. I'm proud of him. And he just texted me as I sat down in the chair. He said, 90 days today, boss. And I was like, all right, good job. So,
Awesome.
Was that like the crocodile hunter you did? Was that?
yeah, kind of.
Okay.
I'm more of a Crocodile Dundee guy. You know what I'm saying?
Oh.
He was a little
Yeah.
before
Way
Steve Irwin.
before, yeah, way before.
Yeah.
He was the OG Steve Irwin.
Well, yeah, and you know, when I was young, growing up in Australia, that's what we all wanted
Be
to
like him?
Yeah, yeah. So, and him or Rambo,
Oh, Rambo.
you know, that'd be the title. And then Mr. T came along, and like nobody wanted him. You know, long story, but anyway, the crocodile hunter. Why did I think about the crocodile hunter? Something made me think about the crocodile hunter, and I just can't remember it. Oh, Norm Macdonald. Never mind.
Oh.
Probably not the show for that.
Mm.
So anyway, topic for the day, guys, is going to be, we're going to talk about kind of a multiverse kind of topic, because it doesn't pertain, the actual topic that we had picked doesn't pertain to everybody or a great group of people. But when you tie it in with the overall big picture, it could be something that could be a trigger for somebody, right? Or, I mean, if it ain't a trigger, I don't know what is, right? But
No, absolutely.
basically, we're talking about divorce, the breakup of a relationship, the breakup of a marriage, the breakup of any kind of separation emotionally from something that we thought we just were on top of, right? And
Yeah.
then, and I get it. You kind of like a lot of things in life. Sometimes you can see them coming a mile away, right? It's just, it is what it is. And then sometimes you just come home and all your shit's in a U-Haul. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
So you just don't know, or I mean, if you can afford a U-Haul after all that. But so I guess a good topic would be just, what do you do? Not what do you do, go hire a lawyer and get them back, or revenge, or all this other shit. But what do you do as far as you're at home by yourself, 2 days later, there's no one to talk to, you don't know what to do. What do you do, right? So, and I personally, yes, I have been through a divorce in recovery. My situation a little bit different, and But and as far as all the, I guess my first, if I'll go first because mine's pretty cut and dry, but I was not the person after I got sober that I was before I got sober. And there was still parts of that old person left. And of course, you don't want to hang on to those parts. Now, those parts are not people. You're not talking about you want to hang on. I'm talking about those parts that you had when you were still actively using of your own personality. Personally, for me, pain. I did not like pain. I still don't like pain. I don't like any kind of pain. I mean, you'd think I do, covered in tattoos and, with all the whips and chains and stuff out in the car. But I personally don't like pain. I just don't like physical pain. I don't like emotional pain. I don't like any kind of pain, right? And so I try to avoid it at all costs. And there's a barrier that gets put up at some point, and that barrier stays there because I cannot endure going through this whole sober thing, working these steps, trying to do this, trying to do that, and endure pain on it. It's not a part-time job, I guess is what recovery is not a part-time job. It's not, okay, well, I'm going to do it for this hour, and then I'm going to go home, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to go to work. I mean, it's a full-time job for me. There's times where even today, after many years of sobriety, that I have to look up and go, what are you thinking and why are you thinking it, right? And so there had to be that separation. Am I going to move past who I was when I was drinking and possibly end up being that person, or go back to that, or am I going to move past it and continue to just go and work on my recovery and maybe work on me, and then we'll see what happens later on down the line.
Yeah.
So mine was pretty cut and dry.
I think it's, hard for a lot of people because, well, I mean, first of all, none of us like pain, period. I don't think there's any alcoholic or drug addict, and we use, drugs and alcohol for a multitude of reasons. But, it's breakups, or especially divorces, are not something that just goes away in a week. I mean, these sometimes can be dragged out for years. And not only that, there's children involved, there's money involved, the house, everything. And the separation of
Fishing
that.
rods.
Golf clubs.
Anyway.
No,
I'm just
ahead.
kidding. Yeah. I mean, guitars, this could be
Yeah.
nunchucks. Okay. So anyway, you're like, you've gone a little too far.
By the way, running out and selling everything really cheap when you still owe on it and your name's on it's probably not a good idea. Just saying. Just throwing that out there. Go ahead, Jill.
The thing is that this can last a while. And I think a lot of people lose their identity when it comes to, relationships, and get used to a lot of things, the comfort, the support. Even if there's no support and comfort in the relationship, there's so many things that are tied into that. And, not to mention sex and, stuff like that. But I just think that, I've never been through a divorce, and I can only imagine how tough that may be. And, I've had a breakup in recovery, and it's been horribly painful. I'm still not over this dude, years later. And the thing is, like, it just is what it is. But and I'm fine. But to share a life with someone, to have kids with them, and the threat of maybe not seeing your children again, the threat of having to start over, and maybe you're a housewife or a house husband, and you haven't worked in a really long time because you helped raise the kids, and like, what do I do for a living? I've never had to work. There's so many different things that go along with that. How am I going to afford anything? And I remember when my parents got divorced, seeing that, mom had to go get a job and, learn stuff as a grown woman. But I can only imagine it being, very challenging. And not to mention, like you said, Mike, the dynamics of the relationship of getting sober. I worked in, treatment centers for many, many years, and I've seen more attorneys or whomever's, come up there and serve papers, divorce papers. I've had many friends divorce in recovery, and it could be because, well, the dynamic changed, whether it was codependent and typically it is some kind of codependency with someone. It had to be done. But also, if that's the person you're codependent with, then, that means there's going to do a whole lot of internal work for you to be independent. I mean, there's so much to look at as far as like this all goes, and starting over from scratch, finding a new identity. And I'm talking about these people long-term, relationships, and a lot, at stake. And what do you do? Because I know women, I've had a lot of friends divorced. They literally stay in bed. I watched two very close people to me, just kind of lose it, and just kind of retreat to the bed and just retreat, period. But they didn't have to stay sober through that because they're not alcoholics. However, you got to do something.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I would imagine now, and man, this is sensitive because I'm sure as hell ain't giving nobody no advice. But if you don't get up and get the blood flowing and get things moving, things tend to settle, right?
Right.
And so there's a drastic amount of depression I could imagine that would just set in. Has with me.
And
It has with me.
anxiety.
Yes.
Anxiety as well.
And you don't feel like doing nothing. And can't nobody talk you into doing nothing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not doing that. And I'm kind of on the anxiety front, just so anybody knows. I've never had it. I don't know what it really is. I don't know, you know what I mean? So I can't really, but as far as the depression goes, I can tell you, you just don't feel like doing nothing. Like even things you really like, jet skiing. Somebody call you, hey man, you want to go jet skiing? You're like, no, don't you want to lay here and, and it just don't. But what I'm going with that is it doesn't get any better. It kind of like you choose to do that, and then it gets worse and worse because I'm not getting up and doing anything. And I can look at myself back in hindsight and say I should have got up and did something.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just really, really bad.
Yeah.
Staying in it makes it worse, for sure.
Almost like you have to relive it over and over again.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like, us and and that's like retreating back to old behaviors and our addiction where we would isolate and be depressed and stuff like that. And those are two huge triggers for people like us that cause the downfall of, of our sobriety and all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just want to say I have been divorced, unfortunately, twice, and that's not anything that I'm proud of. But I was married to my children's father. We got married when I was 19 years old. And we had 2 kids together. We were together 16 years, and I pretty much gave that away. I'm not going to say I lost it or he left me because of my addiction. And I remember thinking that I could not eat, breathe, sleep, nothing without him. Like you said, it's staying in bed. That's how I was. Not only did I get served divorce papers in rehab, but I got a protection order. He took my children. And, now we're on good terms.
Yeah. But I bet the fear that must have just consumed you to the point of, I can't do anything.
I left treatment.
Oh, you left treatment?
Oh, yeah, I left. I was like, if I've lost him and my kids, what do I have to live for?
Yeah. Oh, that's a dangerous place to be.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was.
Okay.
So I left there and, all that happened. But, so I couldn't see past anything in front of me, I couldn't see past the pain. I couldn't see, how am I going to make it? Financially, how am I going to make it?
Anyway, how am I going to afford groceries? I couldn't imagine.
I couldn't put one foot in front of the other,
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah. Not to mention just the days of just bawling and just crying all day long and just panic and overwhelm and all that.
Yes. But so long story short, after that, I went to treatment a few years later, and I had no business getting in a relationship whatsoever. I was not healed, number one, from all that trauma. And number two, I shouldn't have been in a relationship. So I did meet someone in recovery, and I was like, oh, this is everything. This is going to be my Prince Charming. Well, he lived in sober living. I lived in sober living. So I guess we didn't know each other at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember my sponsor, she was like, until you can take care of a plant or a dog for a year, you don't need to be in a relationship. But I didn't think that applied to me.
Well, a lot of people don't in early recovery because, well, being wanted, being loved, all of those things feels good.
Yeah.
Not to mention the sex.
Right. Well, I was seeking validation and that love that I hadn't got from my ex for so long, it felt like.
Yeah, absolutely. Or from yourself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure. But it ended, in a horrible way. But I'm grateful that those things happened because it's made me a lot stronger.
Absolutely.
Is it easy?
No.
Or has it been? No. But it is what it is.
Yeah. Absolutely, it is.
Yeah. But
Well, what did you do? What did you do in those moments in your sobriety when you thought, like,
are you talking about when I got divorced last?
either one of them?
So on that, I want to touch base on that too because, I guess I thought I could save him. Okay, so
Yeah.
he was we never used or anything together, right? Well, come to find out, he was using. I found him dead on fentanyl, so it was just a lot of trauma with him.
Yeah.
He would leave me, abandon me so much, beat the crap out of me. I literally almost died. But even through that, I grieved him long, long before the divorce.
Yeah. Been there before.
Yep. And I began to hate him. I've just begun to where I can forgive, but I don't have to be a part of that life.
Yeah.
But
To me too, it was hard. I put myself in that place and go, you got somebody using high all the time, constantly, all this stuff, all this drama, and then you're trying to stay sober and clean.
How did you guys do that?
It
I mean,
wasn't me.
really, only by the grace of God, I feel like I did it, and having a program,
Yeah.
having a sponsor, working the steps.
Yeah. What were your actions? I mean, it's almost like you have to separate yourself from.
Oh yeah, but I will say, I'm gonna be really honest. I isolated myself a lot at first, and I would stay in bed even through that, and it was just man, and I felt more of a failure. I'm 36 years old now.
Mm-hmm.
I only wanted to be married one time. I never wanted to have divorce. Now I'm thankful because I would not take anything back with our situation today, but it was hard. It was hard. I didn't even want to live anymore.
Yeah. Well, and those are the things that, like I said, like we were saying earlier, are the triggers and the things that, we see and we're just like, well, I just can't do this. And, some of us lead to relapse, but, some of us don't and stay strong through the whole deal and don't even really know how they did it. Like you said, by the grace of God and some kind of crazy miracle, I'm still here and I didn't relapse.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know that I would have handled it the way she handled it. If I was in those shoes, it would have drove me crazy, and she's, and talking about being divorced and moving on from things, and especially in recovery, you do have all those old attachments, like you were talking about, all those things. And I went through one, and even though you realize it's bad for you and this is a good thing that needs to happen, you still have that spiritual, whatever that is, that ties you with that person. And like she was talking about with you're married to somebody, you have kids with somebody, those things are constantly brought up, and it can be years later. And because you have those ties, like a kid or whatever it might be, you still have to deal with that person in some kind of way, whether you want to or not.
Absolutely.
And, so
ongoing trigger.
Yeah, ongoing trigger, and
The trigger that keeps on giving.
Yeah. Somebody told me that they wrote that Hotel California by the Eagles was written about divorce.
Really?
Yes. Listen to that song and think about divorce, and you'll go, oh.
And divorce is also like grief.
Yeah.
Like, and it'll just hit
No,
you.
I think it is. There is a form of grief there.
Yeah.
A huge one. Well, it's the loss of
But we
all
have
kind of
to
things.
we have to do, and you were talking about codependency and all those things. Like if we don't continue in recovery to work on ourselves, that was the part for me with mine. My sponsor, even as it was coming to an end, before it was officially a deal, like a year or two in advance, he said, quit worrying about what that person's doing. You got to stay straight. The moment's going to come when you're going to be having to handle a lot of stuff. If you get sidetracked worrying about what this person's doing, you're not going to have yourself ready when it's time. And man, he was 1,000,000% right on that deal. And when that happened, and I was very upset, but I went to my meetings. I called my sponsor the day after it all kind of blew up, and I was upset, and I said, man, I need to talk to you, like face to face, need to talk to you. And I said, do you have time to talk to me? And he said, he's got a big boy job. He's got a lot of stuff going on. And he said, I've always got time to talk to you.
That's
and
awesome.
We sat on the front porch of the Koala Club and talked. And we came up with a game plan right off the bat. And my part in it was I had to keep doing what I was doing, whether it felt bad to do it, whether I didn't feel real good. I was depressed. I was all these things, angry, a lot of anger.
Yes.
What do I do every day? And we revert back to that, and I kept plugging on that stuff, and it took a while, it took a while. He had me, praying for her. Oh, I was like, I'm not doing that. And then I said, I can pray for her to get hit by a bus. How about that? And he goes, that doesn't count. So I had that going on of learning to overcome something that I felt like I hated and couldn't stand this person, to now I'm having to pray for them twice a day. And that was tough.
I was about to say, I'm sorry,
No,
but
you're good.
I remember people telling me that, and I'm like, I don't even mean it. Why would I pray for them?
Say it even if you don't mean it.
Yes.
Well, if you get an answer, somebody's listening, right?
Right.
Man, Hotel California is like is
that what you've been doing?
It is all over the board. What people say it's about, like drug addiction, excessive lifestyle, being famous. I mean, it's just all kind of stuff on Hotel California.
I guess whatever your vice is, right?
I guess you just get to pick.
Yeah.
Is it Hotel California about divorce?
It was actually
sure.
the Eagles that I saw the interview on, and they were having that topic of what's this song actually about, and one of them threw that out there. So anyway, it made a lot of sense.
There's a plethora of stuff this song is about, but
absolutely,
there's a word in there, and it's called one of the lyrics is called Tiffany Twisted. Have you never listened to this? I liked it.
No, I love the song
thousands of times.
Oh yeah.
There's one called Tiffany Twisted, and it's saying that describes someone's obsession with like popular stuff, wealth, rich
high-end
stuff, high-end stuff.
I can see that, Tiffany's.
So Tiffany Twisted.
Twisted over the Tiffany.
Know some Tiffany Twisted folks, man. I do. I'm gonna start using that term on a regular basis.
All right.
Starting today. And,
yes.
and I also looked up all of the words that Charlotte wrote in the web. And one of them,
I knew you were on that. You was not going to let that go.
Radiant.
Yes. Radiant.
Some pig.
I feel like I remember these.
Humble.
Special.
Oh man, now you made me lose my spot.
And you know what? All those could apply to Mike too.
I'm telling
you. Know what I'm saying? Radiant, humble.
I feel like I got a spider living in my room somewhere. So,
well, going back to what you were saying, you said you sat in the front of the building talking to your sponsor, and I could imagine, anybody getting divorced, that feeling of failure. And
so go ahead. I want you to finish, but after you finish, I want to ask us questions. So
okay,
please finish.
The feeling of failure, and not only that, like I couldn't make this work or whatever it may be, but not a lot of men and maybe not a lot of women want to be vulnerable that much and come into a meeting just completely broken. And I've never heard it.
Yeah,
I really can't. And I know there's been
You mean like openly sharing in a meeting that their heartache?
Yeah, or I mean, I've heard people talk about heartache, but like someone going through a divorce.
Another good
There's a guy
song,
right
Heartache
now,
Tonight
actually.
by the Eagles.
But
That's
like
another-
just coming in there and letting it all out. I mean, because people want to protect themselves and they put up their, their walls and their defects of
Yes.
character and
Somebody
those
said
walls
this.
got to come down.
pride and whatnot. Right. And that may be something they do with just their sponsor.
That's what I was getting at. Somebody the other day said, share your pain and anger with your sponsor, and then share the basic thing with the group.
Yeah,
Oh,
let's say
okay.
share the mess with your sponsor. Share
There
the
you go.
message
There
with
you
the
go.
group.
Thank
I've
you,
seen
Mike.
that
Did you-
before.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
So, and that's kind of what I did. But he also looked at me and he said, "I expect to be hearing you sharing in meetings about this. Like, don't
Yeah,
sit over there
yeah.
with your head down. Like, I better hear you." And
But you can also share about how the program is helping you
sure,
or not helping you. I mean, whatever, however your situation, don't make nothing up. But when you share, you can say, "Hey, this is the deal. This is what I do. This is what my sponsor had me do." Because you may have somebody out there that won't say nothing.
yep.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, they're in the bottom of a bottle, and then they come in 6 months later talking about the divorce they were going through 6 months before,
Right. And we're like, what?
how it led me to this. And I mean, you just wasted 6 months of recovery time, man.
And
That
you-
stuff's
if you
more
say-
valuable than gasoline.
If you say the word divorce that you're going through it in an AA meeting, you're gonna have about. If you're a guy, you're gonna have about 15 older men come up and go, "Oh yeah, bro, I've been there."
Me too.
Yeah, we can
Well,
talk about that. And you realize we've all been through this.
Yeah.
You're going to survive. You're not going to die.
Yeah.
You know?
But it's hard to see it at that time.
Sure.
Right. Absolutely.
I was gonna say something. So I didn't mean to cut you off. I was gonna say too, like when I got a divorce from my children's father, it pushed me so far into addiction. Like I just couldn't get it together. Now everything with him,
The latter.
yeah. I was just like, it just made me stronger, and it made me like love addiction, love helping people, but hate it at the same time and I also see where things that I did came back to me through him
Yeah.
and my addiction.
Or you had to be strong or you wouldn't have made it out.
And like, in us, where we're going now, there's things that I have from my divorce and things that she has from her past relationships. And we have to talk those things out and go, hey, this may not be a big deal to you, but it throws me into the deep end because this is where I was at with so-and-so. And we do pretty good about kind of communicating that stuff. And, but what we're aware of it now, we've been down this road a little bit. And so it's kind of like we know where we're going and what we don't want to happen. And I think that's a good thing about it. It is the wisdom of it to sit in it sober and go, I didn't like this, and this. I did like X, Y, Z, but these things I'm not going to deal with again. And sit down. I mean, my sponsor's old school. We make lists. You sit down and go, I'm not going to deal with X, Y, Z, and make a list. And then as you're out there and you run into people, and it doesn't even have to be in a relationship, but in your life with a friend or whatever, and you go, yeah, I'm not doing that. That's a toxic thing that I don't want to be involved in. And man, that is so much better when you've done it that way.
No, that's great. And a lot of people can't do that because they don't know how to communicate, which typically is a lot of relationships. But, there's people sometimes have to get outside help.
Oh,
Sure.
yeah, definitely. Definitely. Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said about the counseling and stuff like that that's probably needed way beyond what we can do. I mean, we're here to help stop drinking, maybe shut down that next, whatever. If I had someone, a sponsee that was going through this, suffering from this, I'd be like, you get you a counselor.
For sure.
I'll talk to you every day. We'll do steps. You need to get a counselor and get some of that emotional baggage on that side out.
Right.
Know? So, but you talked earlier about the feeling of failure. Mm-hmm. You remember that?
Yeah.
Is
sure
that
do.
common, the feeling of failure, whenever you go through a divorce?
Well, being that I've never been through a divorce.
Well,
I think that's was it, yeah, it was me.
You said it, Jill.
Yeah, I did say that because I've had so many friends divorce,
Well,
and
there
I've-
you go.
and I
That's how
know
you-
that's how my mom felt, because that's what she told me.
But even a long relationship is the same way. It's the same feeling.
But a
of-
feeling of
See-
failure, like what? And I don't knock it. Not saying it don't. I think it's a thing because I've heard it before. But failing at what?
I think maintaining the nuclear family.
Okay, so, but, and I guess maybe where I'm going with this is my feeling about it was always kind of like, and all I have is an example or a couple that have been married for 53 years, right? My mom and dad. That was my example. And like, they're one. They're not two people. I'm sorry. They are one person. And they have been. Like, I couldn't go to my mom and say, hey, look, I need to tell you something. I don't want you to tell Pop. Because it was just a matter of minutes. Pop knew. Like, almost like back in the 70s. He had her on some kind of wire or something. But, like, you couldn't tell one anything without telling the other. Like,
Yeah.
it was just, it never was the vision that we got as children. Was never about holding a family together. It was about an emotional attachment that was so bonded, that there wasn't really a that sense of if one of them left, the other one had failed. There, does that make sense? It wasn't.
Yeah.
I never stayed married to say I was married.
Yeah.
I mean, I never stayed married to, have for the children or anything. And I know people do.
Lot.
And if you do, I'm not judging. I don't do that. I can only speak from my experience, right?
Right.
But if I wasn't doing what was required to keep the marriage going, then I probably should have done something different or bailed.
Yeah. And I mean, it can be different from every single person.
Well, also here's things like they want to save the marriage,
Yes.
right? Have you heard that term?
Oh, for sure.
Save the marriage. And again, not judging anybody, it's just some of these terms, they don't resonate in my world that I lived in,
Yeah.
as far as saving something, it's
Well,
granted, two people love each other. Somebody makes a mistake. Heaven forbid one mistake doesn't just erase 50
Right.
years of a bond.
right.
But I don't, and we're diving off into an area that does. I'm just curious about the, as far as the recovery thing goes, right? I can tell you that getting drunk is not going to save anything at all, and getting drunk is not gonna. It's probably gonna make me feel more of a failure because now I've got 9 months clean. And I'm going through a divorce. I can't even stay sober and hold my marriage together right now. I could see where that failure would come in there.
But I'd like to think that that probably happens a lot.
Oh, absolutely.
I would-
And well, I mean, just anything, I maybe as a man or a woman, I didn't. There's always something I think someone could feel they didn't do their best.
Yeah.
Somewhere and internalizing something or another, within that relationship. I didn't communicate better. I wasn't always there. I was there, but was I there emotionally? All those kind of, things
Right.
like that.
What did I do that I could have done different that would have?
Yeah, and is this gonna? Your children are probably crying. I know when my parents told me I cried, and I could imagine like how that would make my parents feel. Like I broke my child's heart.
Man, my kids were excited.
Yeah, mine were too. They were like, hell yeah, we don't have to deal with this anymore.
and they're like, I get stuff on this side, I get stuff on that
Well,
side.
I mean, we're excited now.
Christmases.
It worked well. I was too young to understand what was going on. I was too young to understand that was a good thing. Because I was young, and of course I internalized it all, and I was like, "What do I do?" But anyway,
and then I can also another point. I can see where the children would blame themselves.
Yeah.
sure. Well, children are really
I can
big at
see
doing
that
that.
again. I never had to.
You know what's so weird for me was feeling the failure and the part of it, and like so I went through addiction the whole marriage for 20 plus years, 18 years of it, and then I go to treatment and I'm told this whole time, quit using, quit drinking, quit doing this, everything will be fine if you do that. Well, I do that. I do the things they tell me to do. I get out. I'm going to meetings. I'm doing all the stuff they tell me to do. 2 years into it. And she said, I don't like you that way either. That's the kind of stuff that you have in your head. And you go, well, what'd I do wrong now? you know?
Yeah.
And so it took me a long time to realize that's a toxic deal and that's somebody's own stuff going on. It
Right.
wasn't my stuff. And that's where, again, a sponsor and folks in the program that I knew and could just go, man, why would somebody say that? And then
Games,
bounce that
man.
off.
It
Yeah.
also makes you question yourself and your self-worth.
Sure. And I'm like, I've let my kids down. I've messed their life up. And then on top of that, as I get further away though, I go, that should have never been there. It should have never happened, but you beat yourself to death.
Yeah.
Beat yourself
That
up
does
in
seem
the
like
time.
when you that's why I can't even look back and say what would have happened if, because it just don't, man. Yeah, I get it. You ever heard Desperado by the
Oh, I
Eagles?
love that song.
That's a good song, isn't
It
it?
is.
Now my,
Life in the fast lane.
that slowly make you lose your mind, man.
I was gonna say something on feeling like a failure. Like for me, it was more towards my kids, and then also like, why did I allow all this bullshit? Why did I allow him to put me through this?
Yeah,
Like you teach somebody or how somebody treats you, you're just saying, hey, that's okay. You just teach them how to treat you.
right.
You know? And
Yeah.
I was
I can
like,
see that.
yeah, and I'm like, I would never in a million years. I used to say, I'll never let somebody put their hands on me, or I'll never let somebody. I mean, I was working 2 jobs. He was out doing whatever, but I still wanted to save it for what? Looking at it now, I'm like, for what?
Yeah, it's kind of like that old 4th and 5th step, the sexual relations or whatever, where was I selfish, self-seeking, or dishonest with myself, or, whatever.
I just wanted to be loved, I think.
Girl. Yeah.
You know, Jill said the word sex 3 times. in this
She has,
podcast,
I've
so-
heard.
Jill is an animal, guys. That's
Sorry,
all I'm
the-
gonna say.
Sorry, the polls are running over here. I
Hey,
gotta-
I mean, like relationships, we're talking about marriage.
Yeah, and
No.
that complicates things. You get feelings mixed up with things, and you get it can be
yeah,
a dark.
2 totally different things.
Well, if you're Mike Walston, yes,
Yeah, just don't don't even.
but
I
you
mean,
know,
it just complicates matters more with that. And that, and a lot of people like to play games.
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
And
Yes.
throw stuff back in your face,
Connect
even
four.
like 15 years later. You can't tell me that wouldn't be a trigger for
yeah.
someone.
It
They do
is,
like to
that's
do that,
right.
don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember that time? You're like, no, I don't. I'm
Like-
drunk for 15 years. I mean,
Yeah.
no. Matter of fact, who are you?
it can be. We've been married for 6 years, Mike. What are you drinking over there?
Like you get served divorce papers and you're like, I'm married? What?
That's a quick divorce though. If you didn't even know you were,
I'm gonna have to have my wife look at these for me.
I that can be really tough, and I got a guy now that's going through that, and he what do you call it? The spouse is not the addict or the alcoholic, and they're sick of dealing with him. So it's get out, halfway house, do whatever, try to get your job back. It's this cycle of things. And I told him early on because of and he's like, I just want to save my marriage and all that. And I said, let's cut to the chase. May not be worth saving. You may not save it.
Yeah.
So let's don't have this big expectation of if I go 90 days without drinking that everybody's going to come running back to me, because it don't happen that way all the time.
And when you get sober, you're a totally different person. And I think people start to realize that, that may not, they'll be in treatment and start to realize, oh my gosh, what have I been doing? Why have I been with this person? And it may be, totally freeing, but it definitely still going to be hard.
And that's where I was going with that earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was trying to, you worded it a whole lot better, but.
Yeah. I mean, like if we're doing the work and we're, creating our new identity, I don't know if you could go back to the same. I don't know. I mean, I know probably thousands of people do, but.
And like my approach on things when I got sober was, we have all this stuff going on in the past. Let's figure it out. Let's get a counselor. Let's try to work on it in some type of way. No work on the other side. Not interested. Don't care. And I finally went, wait a minute. I'm trying to fix something that the other person wants to stay broken, and that's not G hauling. You know, it's
Yeah.
just not. And but it took some time of looking back on that stuff, and it all kind of coming together and just going. Hey,
At some point, has anything ever G hauled for you?
I do a lot
I'm
of
just
G hauling.
curious. Yeah.
You know, in my day, I did a little G hauling.
Well, I mean, I guess if you're not married, you have to G haul.
What the?
You have to, yeah.
What is this word?
I don't know. Matt just made up some word. We're kind of making it in a sentence. Out of
Oh,
it.
okay.
You know what G hauling means?
No.
Never heard in my life, man.
That's when you're
You're not hee hawing.
I'm gonna get real redneck on you real quick,
Oh,
but it goes
no, I'm
back.
scared.
No, it's not
okay.
nasty. When you have two
I just
mules,
said I'm scared.
when you have two mules and you have a team of mules, that's left and right is G and haul. So you're telling them which way to go. So when everything's G hauling, they're running
They're
straight.
running the same line.
G and haul are running the same way.
So basically,
Totally useless information.
instead of running parallel,
I'll remember that next time I go on a donkey trail.
if you're not G hauling, you're running perpendicular. I guess.
Same thing the word redneck came from was the guys laying the reins of the mules on their neck. And as they would plow, they would help push the plow. And then it would rub their necks raw. And that's why they called them redneck.
The mules or
Doesn't
the
matter.
guys?
The
I
guys.
thought it just meant you worked out in the sun. You were wearing
No.
a t-shirt.
So let me
It
get
would-
this
it
straight.
would rub their necks
You
raw.
got a perfectly good mule, and you're rubbing your neck raw doing the work.
Man, back in the day, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
I've
wait.
learned so much today.
I say this like I've done any of that, you know.
I mean, Charlotte's Web.
Terrific was the word I left out.
Oh, okay.
Bingo. I knew we were short one, Mike.
It was 4 words.
Wasn't special.
Yeah, it was. A
It
good
wasn't
one.
special,
It
though.
was a good one. It was good. And Charlotte's Web's, it's always going to have that spot in your heart.
Your next sobriety birthday, I'm going to get you a cake with a web that says special or whatever. You know.
Radiant.
Humble.
Oh yeah, do the humble thing.
Yeah.
No, what's special? on
Humble
it?
describes me much better than all the other words. I don't know.
We have a couple of friends of ours and listeners from South Louisiana. They're in this weekend, and we've been enjoying. Man, look,
It's not Daryl and his wife, is it?
no.
Oh, okay.
When South Louisiana, when Cajuns roll up to your house, they bring their own Yeti, and when he pulled a cast iron pot,
It's an ice chest.
I said, "It's on, it's on."
He brought his own cast iron.
He
with
brought
him?
everything,
Yes.
and he's like, "Where's the stove?" He just goes straight in, starts making jambalaya.
nice. Oh, stop it! You didn't bring me any rude.
Miss Melissa and Mr. Bo, they're at the house right now chilling, and they listen and love our show. And
Takes
and,
a while to make it, don't it?
He
Cajuns,
did about
it
an hour and a
does, you
half.
know.
About an
That
hour
ain't
and a half.
bad.
We're having boudin bread tonight. I don't even know
Oh,
what
Yeah,
rude
well-
again.
that is. Yeah,
We'll get you some.
It's probably bread
I probably
soaked in
can't
the
eat it.
boudin juice.
It's
this
crescent
is
rolls or something.
this man marinated. We had pork and sausage jambalaya. He marinates the pork like 2 days before he even cooked. I mean, this dude came
So-
in as like pop, 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 pop.
Well, I mean, is it like it's pork and sausage? Aren't they the same thing?
No, I mean like sausage in a casing. Pork
Oh,
is like pork.
you got
like off
like-
of
okay.
a pork roast.
It's like
you
smoked
know?
sausage.
Yeah. So
And on that, I just wanted to say I'm so glad they're here. But it was also pretty tough. I thought at first when I was going to see her, because this is one of my best friends that was killed last year.
Yeah.
First time to see her parents since then,
I
and
can
ever
imagine.
without them. But it actually went well.
Well, Lacy, I'm glad you brought that up, and because divorce, breakups aren't the only thing that we can go. And obviously, whenever someone loses their life, we don't necessarily feel like a failure. But, those kind of things, too, can be some of those emotions. I guess where I was going whenever Matt mentioned the topic a couple days, there are certain emotions that stick and stay. They don't go away no matter what you do. You can't, you try to pray them away. And obviously, the more time goes by, the more they dim, but they just don't leave. They don't go away completely. But there is a time where especially some of these in my life, have just came to peace with them.
Yeah.
To where I don't wake up and it's the first thing I think about. Oh my goodness. Jill, I heard you mention earlier about putting your identity with that person, and it's so important to have your own.
Absolutely.
It is. And it's, and what do you do whenever I think myself, I don't I do now, but I didn't allow myself to grieve whenever I would lose a friend. And I didn't, I did not lose him to a car wreck or murder or something like that. I lost him to cancer. And, I went and seen him, and every instinct in my being said, don't go. Remember him how he was, and you don't want to go. And I think I was 3 years sober. I got sober when I was 38, and he died when I was 43. So I was 5 years sober whenever he died. But I went and seen him one last time in the hospital, gave me a chance to tell him I loved him for the first time ever. Like, me and you dudes just don't do that, right? Or some of us. And it gave me a chance to hug him, tell him I'll see him soon, and gave me a chance to say goodbye. And I honestly thought, man, when I walked to my car, I'm going to lose it, But to be quite honest with you, I was just really glad that I was able to do that.
Yeah.
That because looking back now, that's been 8-9 years ago. Looking back at that, I would have probably had more dread and regret, maybe even the failure feeling, if I hadn't done anything. Just how selfish would that have been, So I get it. There's these emotions that just stick and stay. They just don't.
I think that's part of growing up as an adult and going through life. You have these experiences, and there's always that piece of it there. And like, whether it's a divorce or you losing somebody or whatever it might be, and it's like, hey, it was bad to start, but I have that over here, and it's there, but it ain't the end of the world. It's not my favorite way to feel. It's not my favorite thought to think about, but it's been part of my life, and that's where we talk about sobriety and recovery.
Yeah.
Recovery is going, this is what it is. It's kind of natural to feel the way I feel, whether it's sad or whatever it might be. And that's okay. And I can feel that, but I can feel these other things too. And it doesn't control my entire life.
Well, and I've had a talk with my sponsor about that because I have a great deal of pain, and it's always there.
Physical,
Emotional,
okay.
From a lot of loss. And, I've done the steps and, many, many times and do the things that I need to do. But I remember talking to her. I was like, I don't think this will ever go away. Now I'm happy. I'm content. It doesn't rule my life, nor when I, if I feel it, I decide that I need to feel another way. But I know it's in there, and it's something that I have to be very, very delicate and careful with, to not sink into that hole of self-pity that I used to live in.
It's almost like the drinking thought when it pops in your head and you go,
Where'd that come
I'm not going to dwell on it.
I think that's my biggest enemy, is that right there.
Mm-hmm.
And, keeping myself in the right headspace so that I don't fall into that trap.
That's all of us though.
Yeah.
The headspace.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why recovery is so important for me, because I can't go there.
And you can be your own worst enemy. That's for sure.
right.
Yeah. Stand in my way, huh?
Or hard. Yeah.
My koala club's
really good
great.
at it.
Matt's terrible. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got to be around my people and have those people. But what were you saying, Lacy?
I was going to say, too, I remember, well, no, I'm sorry. I just told you just maybe last night, I was like, or night before, I don't know, whenever it was. After my first divorce and when I went to Monroe and I finally found myself again and was beginning to love myself and all of that. Well, I mean, I was so happy. And I'm so happy with my life now. But for so long, that guy just drug me down and took all of my peace and serenity and joy. And there's moments where it's still, I'm like, what the?
Yeah. What was I thinking?
Well, yeah, but how did I let somebody control me like that?
My sponsor has a good phrase for that I had to learn. And you can need them, you can want them, but you don't need them.
Yeah.
Right. So I can be myself, and Lacy and I do our thing, but I don't have to. Lacy we're not codependent. Mm-hmm. I don't have to have my happiness from Lacy being happy. I'm okay with where I'm at, no matter what else happens. And that's a good place to get to. And when he first said that, I thought, man, that's kind of cold way to. But then I thought about it. I was like, that's a beautiful way of looking at it, because why would I wear Lacy out? You're not making me happy. You should be doing this or that. No, I have my way of dealing with my stuff, and when I'm jacked up, I can recognize that now. So, and I think a lot of times in recovery and rehab, romance, and all that stuff, we're dependent on something from someone else.
For sure.
Right.
And we've got to
And it
find
never
that
ends well.
within or through our
Good
higher
luck
power.
getting it.
Well, and that's probably what we did through our whole addiction. You know, we don't
Yeah.
feel good about ourselves, so how else can I feel
Change
good?
the way we feel
Exactly.
by an outside source.
Yeah.
It's like, I got to tell you, every year when the weather changes, your air pressure is going to go down and the lights are going to come on. Why do I have to constantly be the one filling up the air in the tires? No, I'm just kidding.
We also
Like,
want
we
the
forget that
instant
from year to year.
gratification too.
Radiant.
For sure.
I had a member of Alcoholics Anonymous tell me one time that they had a family member who they were close to and getting closer to tell them that they were not responsible for their happiness. So let's just say it was the Alcoholic Anonymous member had someone that in their family, and that family member looked at him and said, "You are not responsible for my happiness." And they told me, they said, that was so freeing. And I think that would be a good topic for our next podcast is, whose happiness are we responsible for? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, we can make a whole hour out of that. Seriously.
sure.
Yeah.
Just on Matt alone.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of us are people pleasers.
Welders.
And
You say welders?
People pleasers.
Oh, I thought you said welders are often
yeah,
people
especially those MIG and TIG welders.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, I'm
Gotta
gonna tell
keep
you,
an eye on
those
those.
guys. Those guys that get underwater, man, they got my full
Yeah.
respect.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you can make something burn underwater. You got way more pull than I do.
Yeah, but you know, that's all that it I think with recovery and the word recovery, we have to be coachable. In life, you make mistakes, you have crap happen, good, bad, or indifferent, our fault, somebody else's fault, it doesn't matter. If you have to deal with it and you're in that situation, instead of looking around and going, well, here's the blame, here's where we have to group and go, okay, I got my sponsor here, I got my people here. Where was I wrong on this? What can I do better? And when we can do that, you can't, those situations are going to happen, but you move forward the next time that comes up. You go, oh, I've been down this road and I
made
some
it.
things out.
Yeah. And it gives you hope for the,
sure.
and it's crazy. What I've learned is that throughout, all these years is that it gets easier and easier and easier.
Sure.
And
It
because
does.
I'm talking about the coping skills, because at first you're like, this isn't going to work. Oh my God. And then you're like, okay, I barely made it through that one. And now it's just kind of like,
But the next time you make it a little easier, and then
yeah,
after a while,
where
just
it would
roll.
take 10 years, it took 5 years. And
But that also comes with dealing with that feeling and evaluating it when it happens and sitting back and going, man, this really sucks. Like, how did I start this fire?
I think it's
how
important
did
to
I
look
get
at
to
those
this point?
things.
Oh,
Or
my
that
favorite's when you
pattern.
see yourself doing it and you still keep doing
Well,
it.
and that's what I'm
that's me.
saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, if we don't evaluate this and look at it, honestly, then we're going to continue whatever behavior or whatever pattern this is, going on with us.
And you're not alone. You can evaluate that with somebody else.
And
Yeah, not
the
by
biggest,
yourself.
The biggest thing is we're joking about Mike being humble, but not joking. He is actually a pretty humble guy. But
Oh, I'm probably the most humble person you've ever met.
yeah,
Okay.
besides me,
Besides, yeah.
I mean two of the in
Humble
the world.
one, humble two. That's the license plate on our Hummers.
More
say.
like thing one, thing two. But
That's what I was thinking.
but when we can humble ourselves coming in here, and we learn to be a little coachable, that was for me. I had to learn to listen to other people and actually go, that's so stupid. I would sit there and be like, I'm not making a daggum list on a piece of paper. I'm not doing that. That ain't going to solve nothing. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. And it's real simple. And I started being coachable on some of those things. Now, my sponsor comes on here sometimes. He will tell you that I am not coachable. He will affirm I'm horrible, but that's okay. I've gotten a lot better than I used to be, because you couldn't tell me nothing, you know. And now when my ass starts hurting from something, I go, yeah, I'm getting my tail whipped on this.
Yeah.
What am I doing? And then he will bluntly say, here's where we're at, and what can we do different next time?
Yeah.
And learning to listen a little bit, you know. So
Well, guys, we about ran out of time. Lacey, thank you for coming by. I appreciate it. We
Thank you for
have
having me.
been played 9,078 times.
Where?
Yes. On Spotify, Apple Podcasts,
Oh,
whatever.
that's pretty cool.
Matt usually keeps up with the YouTube analytics. And we have 174 followers. Now, if you don't remember, there was one time I was like pleading for followers, and we had 123. So we've got like 50 more. Like
Wasn't that,
apparently one in every country. I don't
Was
really
that years
know.
ago?
I don't know. It wasn't. It was probably a year ago.
we actually on YouTube, they haven't updated it this week. Sometimes they're weird, but we should be over 3,000 on YouTube.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
So like
yeah,
12,000 plays altogether. So I'm working on camera angles next. I think I figured out where our cameras need to be just from sitting through this podcast. And we got the microphone thing figured out. So I think we're going to be to the point now where I can just get a producer in here to work the camera angles, and and I can assign mics to where when you talk, it goes to you, and when I talk, it goes to me. And then there's a short part where you see the screen that's seen right now. So working through it, Jill.
What happens when we all speak at the same time?
No, I mean, there's a filter for that.
I'm just kidding.
But and actually, I can tell you, but I'll tell you later. I don't want to bore the audience. What we want to do, though, is we do want to invite you to come listen to our next episode. Whose happiness am I responsible for? And that is inspired by one of our fellow members of Alcoholics Anonymous and one of my friends. So I think, I'm going to get their permission before I mention their name. So, but anyway, and if that's the case, we might even have to call them and have them tell us that story, if they will.
I would like that.
That would be very nice. So a freeing feeling. So anyway, I've shared enough analytics. I think we've gone just about everywhere we're going to go. We have been the
Do you have your announcement music handy?
I do. You ready for it?
I'm ready. Hit it, man.
Well, hang on. Let me pull it up. Here it is.
Smalley Smalls, non-copyright. So Travis M. celebrated 29 years of sobriety. He's
That's
been on
awesome.
this podcast before. So we got a guy getting 90 days and one getting 29 years. So
Good deal.
happy
That's
birthday,
awesome.
Travis.
Congratulations, Travis. I know.
Yeah, he celebrated that
Stay
this
humble,
week.
my friends.
Yeah. I know he listens to the show sometimes
Yeah. When it, yeah, he does.
when it involves him.
Nah.
No, I'm just kidding. Travis, congratulations.
He's humble number 3.
He's been a friend of mine for many, many years.
He's a
So-
good dude.
All right, guys, we have been at Rule 62 Studios here in Bossier City, Louisiana, and we are always the Grouch and the Brainstorm.